The other ones, for the most part, we'll see when they come back. Dax, don't expect him to be in the boot. Obviously, what will happen is with those guys that have had the off-season surgeries, or not the off-season surgery, but the season-ending surgeries, we got to see where they are when they report on the 26th as far as that stuff is, as to when they'll be cleared to play.
And then for looking at Carson Wentz, what throughout the spring, what stood out to you about him, and what is your takeaway from the spring?
I think probably the biggest thing in terms of watching Carson is how he got acclimated to us. How he got more and more comfortable being around our guys, getting to know some of our guys, developing some rapport with some of our receivers, picking up our offensive scheme for the most part. There's sometimes you really see the confidence in the things that he does very well, and you can see that confidence spreading to everybody else around him. So that was probably the biggest thing really to me, was just watching him, how he kind of fit in and was getting acclimated.
With regards to Chase Young's situation, obviously it's a ways to go till camp. What's that line? You obviously have said how important this year is, but he's also a guy that's clearly part of your long-term future. What's that line for you of like, we need him ready, but at the same point, can't force it because whether it's week one or not?
Yeah, at the end of the day, we can't force anything. I mean, it's about when the player's ready to roll, and we'll go, because he is valuable to us, and you don't want to force that situation, and all of a sudden you don't have a healthy player, and then something bad happens. So again, we're gonna do it right. We're gonna prepare them. In the meantime, that just means other guys are getting opportunities. Got to step up and play some good football.
And to stay on the defense in terms of some of the reserves, I think we know with the secondary, sort of the main four guys, and then there's behind them. Who's kind of been standing out to you from some of those guys behind the obvious starters?
Gosh, there's been several guys that have really had some really good camps, and very pleased with what we've seen from Benjamin. I think St. Juice has had a very good offseason. It's good to see him, back and doing the things that he is capable of. Really liked what we've gotten from the young safeties. I think they're all, really anxious and eager. As you can tell by the collisions. Jeremy Reeves has really practiced with confidence, and you can tell he gets it. He understands the concepts even better now. You see him taking charge out there. As I like to call them, the air traffic controllers. They're helping with the checks. Helping to make calls to get guys lined up and stuff like that. That's what you're really looking for. And Danny Johnson, who's played nickel for us, continues to just show how savvy he is as a football player. Just trying to think of the names off the cuff of my head. But just a lot of those guys have done well. Percy Butler has really come in and flashed and shown us that he has got a terrific skill set. Very pleased with that. Like we're getting from Christian. I think he's a good physical corner that will probably even show up more once we get the pads on. So we've got some very interesting young players that'll be really fun to watch once we get a chance to get back here in the training camp and see how they've developed.
These players are about to spend a long time, away from the building, for the next 6 weeks. Is there anything they can do to keep up and maintain some of that progress they've made, before training camp starts? And
that was the thing when we huddled up just before, we broke the team down, was to talk about that. Was that, hey, make sure you guys are taking all your material that you have, that you've put together, and get your, so that you can stay with it, work with it, and keep yourself ready to go. That's really the thing they can do. The second thing is make sure their conditioning stays top notch. That's probably the biggest thing you want to see.
So I know you've had previous experience working with Coach Juan Casio. Can you talk a little bit about why you wanted to bring him in, what you're hoping he'll do for the tight ends?
Well, the biggest thing in terms of knowing who Juan is, I know Juan has coached tight ends before. That's the first thing. Secondly, he's got a very vast knowledge of protections. And I know one of the things that happened was that Coach Haynard, along with Coach Jordan and Coach Matsko, are the ones that set our protections and our run games. So I wanted to make sure I had a guy that had a heck of a knowledge of the blocking schemes. The one thing that's been really good too is he also has a good understanding of route concepts, very good understanding of that. And so we were going to keep that same type of personality as well. The way he coaches is very similar to the way Pete does. I know a lot of you guys have seen Pete and know how excited he gets. And that's who Juan is, and I wanted to maintain that as much as possible. He does have a good understanding of route running. What's even better, though, with Coach Hostler and his knowledge of the overall offense, he's there also working with them. So we were able to really keep that same type of presence for the most part.
Ron, we all know that the football season is a long process, and every year is a different process, and you have these lines of demarcation throughout the year. With this particular group, at this particular time, what's your comfort level of understanding and thinking where they are with you?
What I feel good about. Last year, you guys remember what I told you, what my major concern was. Coming out of this, I don't have that same kind of concern. What I really appreciate is the confidence in which a lot of these younger guys have seemed to grasp onto the things that we do. You see that they've matured in terms of their understanding, their feel for who we can be. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I like that. I really do like their confidence. You watch Jamin move around and you feel good about who Jamin is right now. I mean, he's had a good spring. That's an awesome thing. It really is. As I mentioned, young guys like Jeremy and Defoe. I mean, these are young safeties that, given opportunities, can step up. Again, Benjamin, watching him move around, that's been outstanding. We got a couple of young defensive linemen that really have taken, nice steps and strides. Shaka and BK are a couple of them. So you feel good about that. You look at the offensive side and you see that young group of wide receivers. Look at the young tight ends right now getting a lot of reps because, Logan's still on the mend. We were talking about John Bates the other day, and just watching him and which, the nice thing is the way he was coached by Pete and then Juan coming in, you just continue to see the growth. And so you feel comfortable and confident because they look comfortable, they look confident. And so that's kind of what I'm coming off as far as this is concerned.
Thank you.
Following up on that, just about your belief in the group, or for this having practice today, some guys coming back on the third day of minicamp, and past years other coaches have wiped it away. What did you see from the group in terms of kind of responding to being here today, and can you just kind of walk us through your decision of hosting practice today?
I thought they were pretty excited. My decision to hold practice is why not, first and foremost. Secondly, this practice was more about the young guys. It really was. I mean, I could have sent the veterans away and just told these young guys to stay, but having the veterans here, I think, is important. But this was really about them. We basically cut practice down to about a third of what it normally is, and the whole focus was on the young players. So that's why we did what we did today.
We got time for 3 more.
And just about Montez Sweat, with him going through the tragedy that he went through last year, what have you seen from him in terms of just kind of how he's either dealing with that going forward and just how he's kind of coped with it, but also focusing on football?
It was very difficult for him last year. He went through, the loss of his mother and then the loss of his brother, and that really, weighs on a person. And it was tough. And so the biggest thing we wanted to do was be there for him. One of the things that we've done, and I appreciate ownership for allowing us to do it, is we've hired Dr. Roberts full time. So she's here full time, and she's available for our players, and she's reached out and worked with our guys. And he's one of the guys that she's helped and worked with. And Malcolm Blacken, who continues to be our director of player development, is always there for those guys too. So having that type of availability, I think, has really helped them. I just think, it's one of those things that unless you've gone through it yourself personally, it's very difficult.
Some of those younger guys that you mentioned, Drew White, Trey Walker, Farad Gardner, what have you seen from those guys throughout offseason?
The unfortunate thing about Farad is, he tweaked his groin, so he didn't get a lot of opportunities, as many as we would like to. He was back today and got a chance to see him move around. He's a big guy. He really is. His big safety, he moves very well, and he is a guy that we're going to take a nice long look at the Buffalo position. As far as those young linebackers, they're all part of a group of young linebackers that we like. We really do. I mean, we got to watch them. We want to see more of them. We think those guys can help, and they're going to make that a very competitive group. And we're going to talk about them very soon.
Last one.
Where do things with Curtis Samuel's health stand, and what were the absences the past couple days related to?
I just think it was about an abundance of caution, just being smart. He's had a good offseason. He's been here for the whole program. We saw a lot of good things. He had a slip last week, and so we shut him down. He'd come in, do the basic stuff as far as the individual, and then we didn't put him on the field. We put him out on the field on Tuesday and felt really good about him. And then talking to Al just felt, let's just coach. We're in a good spot with him. So we're being very careful, very smart with him. He's a guy that we think could be very important to us.
And that caution, is it related to the groin? Or
No,
just...
that caution just related to, hey, we're going to be smart.